Where was Jesus and his mother and the rest of the disciples? Where were they? Don't everybody answer at once. It starts with a C. Cana of Galilee. It just slipped your mind for a moment, right? Okay, they were in Cana of Galilee. What were they at? They were at a... Use the mic. Yeah, okay, use the mic.
Wedding.
A wedding, there you go. Thank you, Cecilia and Theo. All right, so when you think of a wedding, what happens at the wedding and what happens after the wedding? Theo, can you pass the mic to Cecilia? There.
Two people get married and then there's a party afterwards.
Two people get married and then there's a party afterwards. All right. So, the party. Have you guys been to a wedding party before? Yeah? Okay. Have you been to more than one wedding party before? You think so? Okay. Can you think of one that was really, really fun? Yeah? And what happened there? What happened that made it so fun at the wedding? Go ahead and say it into the microphone. What was the thing that made it the best? Okay, we get anybody else? What made it so fun? Ingrid?
Everyone seemed really happy, I guess.
Everybody seemed really happy. Awesome. Okay. Anything else that made it so fun? Is that a hand or no? Okay. Just checking. Any body movement? It could be an indication. Okay. When you think of the best wedding that you've been to, or the most fun, people are really happy. So that's a really good start. What do people generally do when they're happy? Let's say if there's music involved, what are people possibly doing? There's music. Say it in the microphone.
Dancing.
Dancing. Okay, so people are happy and there's dancing. Is there anything else that happens? What else?
Cake.
Cake, right? Okay, there's cake. Couldn't be a party unless there was cake. And St. George's is pretty good about having cakes for all different kinds of things. Okay. Anything else? So people are happy, there's dancing, there's cake. Anything else? Now, I'm not saying that this isn't a good number of people, but if this was the only amount of people that showed up for your wedding, and you were maybe expecting a whole lot more. People, you need people. It's hard to have a wedding and a party without people. Right? So everybody's going to have extra soup today, but we have soup today after church because we're having a bit of a party after church. So you need people to have a party, right? So it's a good wedding when people are happy, when there's dancing, when there's cake, when there's lots of people, right? So I learned a very important lesson a few years ago from a gentleman who's a priest now, and he's from a country called Puerto Rico, and he talked about, fancy word, the theology of having a party. Basically, he was saying that having a party is a deeply spiritual and religious experience. So something like a wedding that we hear about today, but you need to have the right ingredients. So you need to have the people, you need to have a cake. Hopefully people are happy to be there. They want to be there at the wedding. You need the reason to have the party. So in this case, it's a wedding. I mean, what are some other reasons that we have parties?
Birthday.
Birthdays, yeah. Other reasons that we have parties? Theo.
Like holiday parties.
Holiday parties, yeah. Some might even argue any excuse for a party. Anything at all, right? Any reason to have cake. It's Sunday, let's have cake, let's have a party. This gentleman, his name was Eliassine, he told some stories, and it reminded me at the time of some other stories that I'd heard. sometimes in some countries like Brazil and in Puerto Rico and in some other places too, sometimes when people are taking the bus and they're in a big city and there's lots of traffic and maybe there's huge traffic jams that could last, maybe 20 minutes or even an hour, and people are stuck on this hot bus together. Over time, you know what people started doing on that bus? They had the people, somebody brought something so that they could have some music, and then there was some dancing on the bus, and then somebody else brought some food, and somebody else brought some more food, and somebody else brought some food, and somebody brought a cake, and all of a sudden there was a party on the bus. Who would have thought of having a party to celebrate a traffic jam or the bus breaking down, right? But you can have a party for any reason, and it can be a deeply spiritual experience. We have a lot to celebrate. And even, see those people on the bus, stuck on the bus, they weren't rich. In fact, most of them were pretty poor. But they brought together everything that they had so that they could celebrate with each other. And so sometimes even when it's hard, even when you're not feeling like it's time to celebrate or have a party, coming and being with a community and having the rest of those ingredients come together can actually help lift people up. And that's a really important thing. If somebody's feeling sad and down and maybe they're really not feeling good, bringing them into an environment that's full of happy people who want to celebrate can help them feel a little bit better. So there's something very important about partying. Now, sometimes people go a little bit too far and it can become unhealthy. So you do have to be careful. You have to kind of hold things within reason. You can't have too much cake because then you would get a stomach ache and you might get sick and then it'd just be bad. So you gotta kind of hold things in check. But it can be it can be a very holy thing to think about celebrating. Now, has anybody seen Mr. Bean? Mr. Bean? Could somebody show me your best impression of Mr. Bean dancing? Okay, you don't have to. This might not actually be it, but I think it looks something sort of like this. Now, sorry, that's for you guys. So there's some people that say that Anglicans, that might look how we party. They say that we might not be the most exciting, expressive dancers and partiers. So here is your challenge. Here's your challenge. We want to try to buck that trend so that when we have something to celebrate and when we have music, like it says in the Bible, you can make a joyful noise. You can make happy noises. And you can dance. Dance before God. And where is God? God is everywhere. So you can dance. And you don't have to just dance like that. You can actually dance. Did you know that in Britain, in the United Kingdom, there's a woman who's an Anglican priest, and she's also a DJ. And they have transformed churches into these ginormous dance parties. And there's this woman who's the DJ, and she's there, and she's got all the machines, and she's making the music, and she's got the headphones, and she's dancing around, and there's lights, and it's crazy, and it's all inside a church. So there are some instances and cases where Anglicans don't just look like that. But it is important what brings a community together and to have those ingredients to celebrate. We have a lot to celebrate. Even when times are toughest, we have lots to celebrate. The relationships that we have in the community, the many gifts that God has given us, and the things that we can share with one another, like food and possibly one of the most important, time. These are all gifts that God has given us and that are celebration worthy. So today after service, you'll have the chance to celebrate a little bit with Soup Sunday, and possibly maybe we could talk John and choir into providing a little bit of music, and you could even try some dancing before the Lord. So remember that when you're having a party, when you're celebrating, you're doing something that's really spiritual and really important, and you want to do it well. So have fun. Big smiles, because in the midst of that, God is there celebrating and having the party with you. Thank you, guys.